Hi, welcome back. Mitch Argon with CalNeva Realty. I'm going to take you through the greater Reno Tahoe real estate market for July 2025 in just a few minutes. Okay, let's get started. We'll start with median price like we have in prior months. You can see we've had two markets here in the region have a high watermark on median price. It's a new high. Reno at $675 and Carson City at $606,000. Don't think that's going to be a continuing trend based on the way we're seeing the markets growing with inventory, but nevertheless, they did both reach a new peak for 1 month in June, which was last month, of course. The other markets, you can see Sparks down just a little bit. You see Carson Valley is up quite a bit on a 1 month basis, and Dayton firmly in the single digits. Again, the Tahoe market has a very small sample size, and you can have a few months ago, we just had 2 homes sell in that market. So the median price can move around a lot based on the small size and really the wide range of values in Tahoe. So not something that you can track quite the same as the other markets. So again, we've looked at some prior months as well. If you go back and you look over the last now 3 years, going back to mid-2022, pricing has been fairly stable. This chart only goes back 2 years, so you can see a piece of that picture. But just to give you an example, the Reno median price in Reno in June of 2022, using Reno as a bellwether, was, I think it was $635. You can see we're a little under at $619, $630 a year ago. We've got a high of $675 here, but you can see going back, we're $630, $640, $606, $615, and so forth. So this is markets have been pretty flat on pricing in general for the last 2 to 3 years. We take a look at homes sold. You can see some growth in there, and Carson City's down a bit, but some pretty big growth on these numbers in here. We are seeing the number of homes going under contract being smaller than what's coming on as new inventory. So we're seeing the net inventory expand, which we'll talk about in a bit. The month supply of inventory, you can see kind of a mixed bag up and down and through here. Probably the one that is most significant to look at is this one here for Carson Valley at 4.3. That's up from 3.3. That's the biggest change here in the primary markets that we're looking at. And that shows this market moving into neutral territory. Again, Tahoe down at the bottom at 8.6. Very different market, very different dynamic. That's not a number that I would probably suggest you hang your hat on and think that you're in a strong buyer's market. Inventory, like I said, is rising. You can see we're at 20%, 28%, a little bit lower than some of the other markets in here. But I'll show you a chart here in just a minute. You can see where we are. Actually, you can see right here for Reno as a bellwether market, 800 currently. A year ago, 666. And if we go back a little bit further in time, here's the 800 I just referenced. There's a year ago, 666. 2 years ago in July, Reno inventory was 535. So if you look at this over a 2-year horizon, we've got a pretty big build from the 535 up to the 800. And like I said, we are seeing every week, we track these numbers every week internally and discuss it in our sales meetings. Pretty much each week, we're seeing more new homes coming on the market than we're seeing homes going under contract. So it's a net add of inventory each week. So we are seeing that trend happen here in the market. And we'll talk about how that compares to some other markets here in just a little bit. Month supply of inventory, like we touched on earlier, this is a visual view, a 2-year look behind, but you can see here that Carson Valley is well above anywhere it's been in the prior 2 years. And you can see here that I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but you can see Reno, for example, here in the blue is probably slightly higher than it was a year ago back in here, but substantially higher than where it was 2 years ago, right? So again, the markets are gradually moderating and moving towards more of a balanced market. That's what you're seeing here. Price appreciation has slowed down. We're seeing some inventory build. All those factors come into play. So this is the same slide I had last month, and I'm going to kind of try to keep you updated on this trend that we're talking about. I have seen some recent press, although I don't track the Las Vegas market, I've seen some recent press about the Las Vegas market seeing substantial inventory growth. And so I would guess that this is going to reach its way to Northern Nevada. But this is the phenomenon, inventory levels that are exceeding pre-pandemic. And some of these markets like that in Florida, you're seeing inventory levels that are 2 times what we saw in 2019. And you're seeing downward pressure on pricing in these markets because their demand has slowed or matured. They're getting more inventory, that's putting downward pressure on pricing. So let's take a look at how we compare. I added to this chart this dot here for July of 2025, just coming up with this right here. This is where we are here. And we're comparing to 19, that's this orange bar, which runs around the very top. So as you can see, inventory in 2019 was for the most part higher than it's been since then. Every year since then, you can see here on the left in the legend. And we are still trailing that number by a couple hundred homes. We are seeing inventory build each week, probably in the neighborhood of maybe 100, maybe about 25 to 35 homes a week, which is about 100 a month. So we'll see how this pans out. Keep in mind, we are below 2019 inventory levels in our market. That's looking at Reno, Sparks, Carson Valley, Dayton, and Fernley going to Lyon County. These markets that you're reading about in the press, like South Florida, Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Tucson, Phoenix, many of these markets, from what I've read, are at 2 times the inventory levels of 2019. So that would take us from 1,600 homes in the market. 2 times 1,800 would be about 3,600 to 3,600. So very, very different market dynamic. We're trending. We'll see how we do as we're trending along this path. But those markets are quite a bit ahead of us in terms of this correction that we're talking about. That is going to do it for this month. I hope this has been useful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or any of our agents from our Reno or Carson Valley office who may be helping you. If you're not talking to any of our people, please feel free to give us a ring, and we'd be happy to chat with you about how these market conditions may affect you as a buyer or a seller in the current market. Make it a great day. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next month. So long.